It's hard to imagine my lovely friend Luciana Paluzzi as a villain. But in fact, she was the first true villainess of the Bond girls, playing the irredeemably bad but wonderfully sexy Fiona Volpe in Thunderball. It was a role even Luciana never expected to play.
So I got a call one day and they said, we want you to come and do a test. So I arrived in London and I tested for the leading lady, the good girl. And then finally they called me and they said, we have good news and we have bad news. And I always like to hear the bad news first. So I said, what are the bad news? And he said, you didn't get the role. Oh, I was like, oh, it's just my heart sank. And he said, but the good news is that you got the other role, the role of the villainess. And I rejoiced because actually I thought that that was more fun to play.
You would like Bond dead.
I can think of no better arrangement.
Paul! I shall kill him.
You were not supposed to play a real villain. You were supposed to play a Bond version of a villain.
How far do you go?
You better fasten your safety belt.
You could let go and be really nasty.
No! Don't let her make so much noise. Use the chloroform.
Luciana's character did everything Bond could do. She could drive fast, she could shoot to kill, but she was at her most dangerous in the bedroom.
Do you like wild things, Mr. Bond, James Bond?
Wild? You should be locked up in a cage.
I remember that we had that day, for some strange reasons, maybe because I was in bed with Sean, there must have been easy 50 photographers on the set as we were shooting that scene. And you would hear the clicks, so they would say, stop. So finally they decided that we were going to do the scene for them 3 times without the camera rolling. And then after that, they were thrown out of the set. Thrown out. They were asked to leave. They weren't thrown out.
Luciana was filled with stories about her experiences during the filming of Thunderball. But what surprised me was not what happened to her during the shooting of the film, but rather after its release.
To do a Bond picture, it's a blessing, but it's also a curse. Because when I went back to Italy, the directors, they were the Fellinis, the Antonionis, the ones that were really important, the Viscontis of the time. They didn't want to have anything to do with me. They loved me. I knew them all, and they were all very sweet and very nice, but when it came to do one of their pictures, no, because it was like a comic strip.
Well, you can't win them all.
But I worked for 27 years, so I can't complain.
Luciana, Anna, and Ursula embodied the sexy, free-willing spirit of the 60s. But by the end of the decade, Bond himself was beginning to change.
My name's Bond. James Bond.
When George Lazenby took over the role in On Her Majesty's Secret Service, he falls in love and marries Diana Rigg, breaking the cardinal rule of Bond and sentencing her to a speedy death. And when Sean Connery returned in the beginning of the 70s, there was no doubt that a new kind of Bond woman was on her way.
Who's she, your mother? Blow up your pants.
When I was a teenager growing up in Europe, I don't think I'd even seen a James Bond movie. But like everyone else, I'd heard all about 007 and his Bond girls. He was as much a part of pop culture as the Beatles. But the 70s was a new time. Women were beginning to assert themselves, and the first Bond girl of the decade had no problem with who she was and what she represented.
How many Bond girls do you think are cowboys? Cowgirls? Well,
Only one.
oh, there must be more than one.
One of the women who certainly has no regrets about playing a Bond girl is the alluring Jill St. John, who played Tiffany Case in Diamonds Are Forever.
Do you feel more a cowgirl or more a Bond girl?
Oh, a little bit of both. No one wants to give up the mantle of being a Bond girl, and if they say they do, they're lying.
Weren't you a blonde when I came in?
Could be.
I tend to notice little things like that, whether a girl is a blonde or a brunette.
And which do you prefer?
Oh, providing the collars and cuffs match.
You have this wonderful sense of humor about it. You didn't feel that it was a curse, like some actresses might have felt that it was a curse doing a Bond movie.
Then they shouldn't have accepted the role. I really welcomed the chance. I wanted to look glamorous. I was thrilled when they offered me the role.
I have a feeling this is the beginning of a wonderful relationship.
I was thrilled to be working with Sean Connery, to be doing these wonderful locations and this fun script, and I had a great time.
Well, it was in Las Vegas that you had the famous car chase scene.
Yes, that was really interesting. They closed downtown Las Vegas so we could do this car chase, and Sean Connery and I were in a red Mustang.
Lean over.
And they actually tilted it on its side, and I was in it. It was weird. I think it took several nights to do that, but we didn't get hurt. I wouldn't say I wasn't scared.
Relax, darling. I'm on top of the situation.
I think it was very much a 70s woman. I think we were all starting to take charge of our own lives by then, and I was happy to portray that.
Keep leaning on that tutor, Charlie, and you're gonna get a shot in the mouth.
Bond women over the 4 decades have been criticized by feminist movements, especially in the 70s. What do you feel about it?
I think they're bad sports.
There is something I'd like you to get off your chest.
Mr. Osato believes in a healthy chest.
Really?
Hi, I'm Plenty.
But of course you are.
Plenty O'Toole.
I'm Babby.
And I'm Thumper.
Bond women are larger than life. They're not meant to represent the real woman. They're meant to represent almost a dreamlike quality. It's a fantasy quality. How can anybody take that seriously and complain about it?
In Japan, men always come first. Women come second.
I might just retire to here.
This meant as entertainment. It's not meant as a social statement or a chronicle of how far women have come in life.
In 1973, a new Bond appeared in Live and Let Die.
My name's Bond. James Bond.
But what struck me as I was watching the Roger Moore films was how many of the Bond women needed to be rescued. Sometimes from the arch-villain, and sometimes from Bond himself. As when he tricks Jane Seymour's virginal solitaire into sleeping with him.
You could think of James Bond as being a bit of a villain because he cheated her at her own game. He basically cheats with the cards and tells her that it's her destiny to be with him, putting her life in danger and, of course, making her lose her mystical powers.
The deck was slightly stacked in my favor.
I always thought that was a pretty rotten thing of James Bond to do, you know. That was not nice of an Englishman to do, no. A whole deck full of lovers, not right.
Come on, cheer up, darling. Has to be a first time for everyone.
I was curious to know how other women from the Roger Moore era felt about their roles.
See, I don't look at my old films. I don't look at Octopussy or The Man with the Golden Gun. It's probably been years since I saw them last.
Maud Adams has a unique place in the legend of Bond. She's played a Bond girl twice. First in The Man with the Golden Gun, and then again, 8 years later, in Octopussy. I wondered how it would feel to watch herself on the screen as she was 25 years ago.
I look so young. I hardly recognize myself. It doesn't look like me.
Now, The Man with the Golden Gun, you were the girlfriend of the villain, Christopher Lee, and you were being tortured by him. I mean, you were like a victim in that character. How was it for you as a woman to play that part?
Well, at the time, the Bond films, they were really quite different from today. I mean, the women were generally portrayed as damsels in distress, and that's exactly what Andrea was. I mean, as an actress, it's not really the most wonderful part to play, but I was also fairly new to the profession, and I knew my role. I mean, I knew this was a very decorative part.